All right, so first day notes. What you need to know is if I write it, you probably should write it. Okay, unless I tell you not to. There'll be some times where I'll say, don't write this, and in which case, don't write it. Okay. I'm hoping you know what some of these words mean already. I'm hoping. Okay. Our directions are to define it and give an example. So the first thing we're going to do is do a definition, and then I'm going to show you what one of them looks like. So, can you tell me what a variable is? Yes, ma'am. Perfect. I'm going to say an unknown number. No, that's not a hashtag symbol. That's a number symbol. That's my abbreviation for number. Okay. An unknown number, and you're going to use a letter. So what's the most common letter that's used? X is normally the most common letter used. Can you tell me some letters that we probably shouldn't use because they could get confusing? T, because it looks like a plus sign. O, because it looks like a 0. Oh no, we're going to use X a lot. We actually will never use the little x for multiplication anymore. We could use a dot, but most of the time we're just going to smush them together. We could use parentheses too, you're right. I would not recommend using an L because it can look like a 1. I would also recommend not using an S because it can look like a 5. Fair enough? So you can see here I'm going to put my definitions in blue. Example in red. Good? Can you tell me what an expression or what an equation is? Any ideas? Could you give me an example of an expression or an equation? I just can't hear you. Speak up. Well, why? Don't be afraid to be wrong. Correct. So that's an equation. Could you make one with a variable in it for me just to give us another one? So that would be 5n, right? Remember when we put variables and letters together, we always put the number in front. Those are both equations. And why did you say, Sal, that those are both equations? It must have an equal sign. So then what's an expression? Does not have an equal sign. So can you give me an example of an expression? Somebody besides Sal. Nope. Come on. I'm not that scary to talk to, I promise. You just got to give me some kind of statement that does not have an equal sign. Could be. Yeah. So what would you tell me? Yeah, 2 times 5. Somebody give me another one. 12 divided by 2. Those are all expressions. Let's put a variable in it. Those are all expressions because they don't have equal signs. Do we understand the difference? No equal sign? Equal sign. All right, a term. Now for this one, we're going to start with the example. Let's do this. First of all, is that an expression or an equation? It's an expression. So I'm going to do this. Those 3 things are called terms. So could you maybe try and describe what a term is for me? Go ahead, Sal. Okay, so what about the Z? Does the Z have that? No. The Z does have a 1. You're right. So let me do this. These are still terms. So what are terms? They could have numbers. They could have variables. Could be. Does it have to have both of them, though? Doesn't have to have both of them. Could be just a number. Could be just a variable. How many terms are there here? There's 3 of them, right? What are they separated by? By what? What's in here? A sign. In fact, plus or minus sign. It's like the little piece. So this piece is a term. That's a term. That's a term. This is a term. This is a term. This is a term. Basically, it's the pieces of an expression. Okay. So we're going to use that as our definition. And like Marin said, these are separated by a plus or a minus sign. All right, guys, I'm down to my last vocabulary word here. How are we doing? Does this make sense how notes are going to go for us? Okay. Now we get to this really fancy word, algebraic. What word do you see in algebraic? Algebra, which is the title of this class, isn't it? No. Good. It's good. Good stuff. So what shows up all the time in algebra? How do you know it's algebra? Could be an expression or equation. You guys already know what those things are, right? A letter. Algebraic expressions or equations must have, and what do we call the letters again? Variables. It must have a variable. You could have at least one. I'll tell you, and this is kind of an extension here. If it doesn't have any variables, then it just has numbers, right? And then it's called numerical. And you guys can see that or can hear that word number in numerical, right? Everybody good with all that? All right, so now we're going to do a little translating. Anybody in Spanish? You guys translate Spanish to English and English to Spanish, right? We're going to do the same thing with math. Yep, this is a lot of this first chapter is stuff that you guys will already have done before. Can you tell me some English words that mean that? Sum is the fancy one, okay? There's always one fancy math word in each of these lists. Plus. Keep going. Add, yep. Add, addition, yep. It's like saying Robert, and you probably never went by Bobby or anything, did you? No, but it's abbreviation, right? Okay. What else? What else? Got another one? What's that? And can mean a lot of different things. So I'm not going to put it in this category, but it could mean and. Wrong list. We'll get to that one. Yes. What else? Come on. There's some more. More than. Looking for one more. Typically, when we add, we go which way? Do we normally go up or down? Normally, when you add, you go up, unless you're adding a negative, right? What's a word that means to go up? Increase. Now, we're making this list so you can refer back to it later, okay? All right, next column, next group. Subtract or subtraction. Minus. What else? Decrease and less than. Oh boy, you guys are on a roll now. Do me a favor. For less than, can you put some stars around it? Because we're going to have to do something special for less than. Also, less than, you could also just have the word less, and those are actually two different things, and I'll show you why. Somebody said another one, and I just didn't catch it. Difference. Difference is the fancy math word. So I'm going to put the box around that one. Hold on one second. I will tell you, that a lot of people confuse difference with division. Because it kind of sounds like it, right? Starting with the D. Yeah, okay. Do not think that difference is division, because it's not. I think that's all the ones I'm looking for. Anybody think of anything else? No? All right, next list. Multiply. That's the mathy word, product. What else? Times. Something that means to multiply by 2. Double. Now, of course, after double, we could say triple, quadruple, so on and so forth, right? Squared is actually multiplying by itself. So a little bit different. Correct. Another word that means to multiply by 2. Starts with a T. Twice. And finally, one that everybody always forgets about. It's just a little guy. Of. Like 2/3 of a number, you'd be multiplying. Okay. All right, moving on. Last operation. What do we got over here? It is divide. You guys are probably used to seeing divide like this. We will use a fraction bar a lot for divide. Division, we're going to say division, divide will be the same, just an abbreviation. It's okay. What else? Anybody know the really mathy word that means divide? It's kind of fancy. Quotient. That is the fancy one, the box one. How about a word that means to divide by 2? Half. And of course, we could say a third, a fourth, a fifth, so on and so forth. The one that I never get anybody to tell me is split. You all should know that when you're dividing things, you're splitting it into groups. So for example, if I divided you into 3 groups, I'd be splitting you into 3 sets of people, right? Okay. Those first 4 are all called operations. The last one is not an operation, but what is that symbol? Equals. Give me some words that mean equals. Same as, or just same. What else? You could put equals to if you want on the end of that. Got at least one more. 2 more, actually. Is. For example, 3 plus 5 is 8. Just need one more. See if I can give you a hint here. Total. All right, everybody got their list? So now we can refer back to this. Good? All right, so we're going to use this list and we're going to do some translating. Okay, it says translate into an algebraic expression. If it's algebraic, what does it have to have in it? Which is called a variable. So we need to have a variable, and it's going to be an expression. What does an expression not have? Perfect, no equal sign. All right, first thing I want to know, what are the key words in number 1? Sum is a keyword. Times is a keyword. Everybody good with that? Now, if I were to read this, the word sum comes first, right? Would I start an expression with plus? I would not. This sum is actually going to go where this and is, okay? So what am I going to start with? the 18. And then what is this and representing? The sum, which is plus. How do I show times a number? Or an N, or a W, or an A, or whatever letter you want. But you are going to smush them right next to each other. Yep, N is good. How's everybody feel about that? Again, I ask you, you've done this before, right? Yes, you have. Keywords at number 2. Now, what does product mean to do? Would I start with a multiplication symbol? No, this word product goes with this and over here. So what am I going to start with? 4. How do I show times a number? I'm not going to use a dot. I'm going to smush it, put the end right next to it. What's going where this and is? Times. Now, I am going to put a little dot here because it would look pretty silly to do that, correct? It looks pretty silly though, right? So we're not going to do that. We're going to use a dot in this case. Please do not use an X. You will not use an X for multiplication in algebra. It will always mean a variable, okay? All right, I think I'm going to go around the room. You guys are pretty quiet. Sal, we'll start with you. Keywords in number 3. What does difference mean to do? It is. Would we start with a subtraction sign? We put it where the and is. All right, so what am I going to start with? And then? Yep. How do I show the product of 3 times a number? You got it. How's everybody doing, folks? Awesome. Up to Drew next. Drew, give me some keywords here. I think that's good. What does quotient mean? Would I start with a division symbol? No, that's going to go where this and is. All right, so what am I going to start with? Okay, what's going to go where this and is? Do you want to use the symbol or a fraction bar? Symbol. Is everybody okay with that? I'm going to use a fraction bar over here just in case anybody wanted to do it that way. Now I have the sum. Now, would it make sense for me to put a plus sign next to that? No, because that sum goes with that and. How we doing? Is that okay for everybody or no? Well, hold on. This is not your problem. Go ahead. That's okay. So this sum, we said this looks silly to put that there, right? So that plus sign is actually going to go where that and is. So what comes next? The 4. And now we're going to do our plus. And what would you like to use for your number? Wonderful. My only problem here is it says the difference, the quotient of 3 and the sum. Okay, this sum, a sum requires 2 things, doesn't it? You got to add 2 numbers together. Yes. So in order for me to show that this sum has got to stay together, we're going to put some parentheses around it. Okay. Over here, I would not need parentheses because we're just going to have it all on the bottom and it's together anyways. So that's where it gets a little trickier. All right, Robert, ready for number 5? Got some keywords for me? Okay. What am I going to start with? What's more than mean? A number. How do I show squared? A little 2 up there. Okay, wonderful. Easy one. All right, Sophie, keywords. That's it. Now, folks, remember back on less than, I had you star it because we're going to have to do something different to it. Okay? When you see the phrase less than, only less than, You need to switch the order in which you see this. So right now it looks like the 10 should come first, right? But because it says less than, the 10's not going to come first. It's going to come second. So what should come first? The number. What do you want to use, Sophie? N. And then what does less than mean to do? Subtract, and then we'll put that 10 there. Does everybody see how that had to flip-flop? Only less than. Only less than. All right. Acelia, keywords. Yeah. Well, 2/3. You're going to tell me the answer? Okay, here we go. 2/3. You guys see this little of right here? Yes? What did that little word mean? Multiply. So you see how we smushed them, Acelia, smushed them together? You staying with me? Is it getting late in the day? Do I need to turn the lights back on? No? Okay. All right, Brooke, you're next. Keywords. Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, does this say less than? It doesn't. So do I need to worry about switching? No, only less than. So what are you going to start with? What does less mean? Now, product is times, right? Would it make sense for me to put a times symbol right here? We're going to make it with the and. Yep, you got it. Put a 4 and then what? Wonderful. Love it. Love it, love it. All right, I should just have one little section more of this on the back before we move on to something else. Marcus, I almost blanked out on your name there, kiddo. Keywords here for me, sir. Times. Perfect. All right, what do you want to start with? Say it again. 3. And then it says times a number. What do you want to use for your number? X. So we'll smush them together. But now it says squared. How do I square something? Any ideas? No? Somebody help me out. What's that? Squared's not adding. There we go. We're going to put the little 2 up there. Teamwork makes the dream work. Love it. What's increase mean there, Marcus? Add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Perfect. And then my last number there is a 4. How we feeling? We're starting to add more numbers and letters into all these. We okay? I do want to ask you, we just did squared, right? What does cubed mean? You put it to the little third power if it's a cubed. All right, Marin, keywords for me, please, ma'am. I think that's it, right? What does twice mean? By 2. So we're going to start with a 2, and then we're going to multiply, right? Now, Marin, my next word is sum. Would it make sense for me to put a plus sign here? No, this sum goes with this and. Is that okay? So what should come next? Okay, now, I have an issue here. I told you to smush these together, didn't I? Right? But this says twice the sum. How many things does the sum have in it? 2. So how do I keep those 2 things together? Parentheses. So instead of this little dot right here, it's going to look like that. Okay. All right, I only have 2 left, so I'll take volunteers for the last 2. Anybody want to try this one? All right, Brooke, keywords. I think that's it. What's half mean to do? By 2. Splitting it in half, you're splitting it into 2 pieces, right? Now, if I'm dividing by 2, Brooke, does that mean like that? No, it means at the end, right? So We're going to have a divided by 2 at the end. What's difference mean? Subtract. Would it make sense for me to start this thing with a minus sign? No, that's going to go with this and again. So what am I going to start with? A 9. And what was difference again? And what am I going to subtract? What do you want to use? N. Okay, I just have one issue here though. This says half the difference. How many things does a difference have in it? 2, right? 2 numbers are getting subtracted, aren't they? So in order to keep them together, we're going to put parentheses around them. Now, if you wanted to use your fraction bar, it would look like that. Okay? If you wanted a fraction bar. Sal, you want the last one? It's a hard one. You ready? Keywords. There we go. What does less than mean to do? Flip it. So am I going to start with the 10? I'm going to end with the 10. All right. 4 times the sum of a number and 1. What do you think? Whichever one is closest. Times the sum. Would it make sense to put a times then a plus sign? No. But how many things are in a sum? 2, right? So how am I going to keep those 2 things together? All right. What are you going to be adding for that sum? Awesome. A lot of stuff in that last one. Okay. I actually think the next section is much easier because now I'm giving you the math and you have to translate it for me into English. So what do you think? Oh. How would you write this next one? How would you word it out? I'm calling somebody else, Sal. What do you think, Cecilia? Please do not say 2 times x plus 1 because it could be any variable. And I will say this, I understand that I don't have the best handwriting. So if you ever can't read what I write up here, please tell me. Okay. Is this the only right answer? No, because we have tons of words that mean times, right? Right? We have tons of words that mean plus, right? So this is not the only correct answer. There's about probably 6 of them I can think of. All right. All right, 14. What do you guys think? More than does not flip, only less than flips. What do you start with? What's it say up there? 2. Now, the parentheses and the 2 are smushed together, aren't they? What does that mean? Multiplication. So what's something that means to multiply by 2? I think it was your problem that had this one. What was the word that means multiply by 2? Oh, that's divide by 2. Try again. I thought it was your problem. Maybe it wasn't, Marin. I'm sorry. Times by 2. Double. What else could you use? Twice. Either word works. Okay. So we'll say double because that's what Marin said first there. Double. And what's inside of this parentheses? What is this? It's adding, right? What's the fancy math word that means to add? Sum. Double the sum because there's 2 things in a sum, right? Those parentheses are holding them together. What am I summing? A number and 1. Again, this is not the only answer. You could just say 2 times the sum. You could say twice the sum. All right, somebody else for 15. Read what you got there. Oh, come on now, Celia. You've answered enough. What do you think? Try it. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. What's happening right in between there? Because they're smushed. Yep. What is K representing? Which is it's a number, right? 6 times a number. What's that little 3 mean? Cubed. Wonderful. Again, not the only answer. There's about 4 of them I can think of. All right, one more row of these. What do you think for number 16? Translate it. Don't be scared off by that division sign. The faster we get through this, the faster you get your homework to start on. Is that any incentive for you or not really? Rather do your homework at home? No? Sophie, what do you think? Can you translate that for me? See, you guys know what you're doing. I just don't think you want to talk to me. We're going to skip that 17, and you're going to do 18 on your own. Okay, skip that number 17 and do 18 on your own. Sometimes I think these are a little easier, but they take a little longer because you got to write it all out. Again, skip 17 and do 18 on your own. All right, what do you think? Brooke? You're close. Cubed means to the third. There we go. 16 times the number squared minus 3. Again, not the only answer. You could have a lot of different things there. Everybody okay here? All right, moving on. Please read for me about Cassie. Just to yourself. Read those first 2 lines about Cassie and her friends. Got the idea? Cheap hot dogs, right? Going to the Mud Hens game, maybe? We have Tigers fans or Indians fans in this room? Indians, I'm with you. Anybody Tigers fan? Tigers will get better eventually. They keep getting rid of everybody. All right, so how would you find the cost of all the hot dogs they eat? How do you calculate it? What if I didn't tell you how many hot dogs? Just tell me in general. What would you do to find the total cost? However many. Okay. So what if I bought 115 hot dogs? Okay, so what would you do? Would you add them, subtract them, multiply, or divide them? If I bought 115 hot dogs, what would you do? I can't hear you. You're not going to divide. If I divide 10 cents, now they're going to get cheaper. They wouldn't be making any money, right? You would multiply them. You're going to take 10 cents and multiply by the number of hot dogs. Okay, so if I bought 13 hot dogs, what would you do? Times what? 0.10. Please don't make it a regular 10 because that's then now a $10 hot dog. That hot dog better be made out of gold for 10 bucks, right? Anybody know what this is without using their calculator? Anybody really good? Okay, from now on, make sure your calculator's out, but we're running out of time. So I'm just going to tell you, this will be $1.30. How would I find the cost for 22 hot dogs? And that would give you $2.20. Make sense for everybody? Now I want you to write an algebraic expression. Remind me again, what does something that's algebraic have to have in it? A letter. Did they tell me what letter to use? D, right? What's an expression mean? No equal sign. So, how can we turn this into an algebraic expression? How much is each hot dog? What if I don't know how many hot dogs they ate? What would you use? D, and you would multiply them. There's your algebraic expression. All right, so your homework is going to be this worksheet. There's that. Pass one over to Marin there. You know what? I'm just going to have you pass them that way because I'm going to get hung up on this cord. All right, folks, that is due tomorrow.